I wonder if you've been able to identify something uncomfortable in your life at the moment. Maybe it's been easy for you to identify. It's very clear what you're missing. Last year my dad died. And I sort of joke that Dad died well. He'd been active and well beforehand. He went into hospital on Monday. We didn't think it was that serious. By Wednesday it sort of became obvious it was serious. He went unconscious on Thursday. He died peacefully on Sunday, which isn't a bad way to go. Just enough time for us as a family to get our heads around what was happening and just spend some time with Dad with minimal suffering. So I really miss my dad. But I have to say that the grief of watching my mum age has actually been much harder. My mum is now in the hospital wing at Bupa. She weighs about 35 kg. She has advanced dementia. She can't walk anymore or dress herself much of the time. What she says doesn't make a lot of sense. She struggles to remember how to feed herself. She still recognises us, but I wonder if the day is coming when she will not. It's a different sort of grief, and it seems a lot harder. Maybe it's not obvious what is uncomfortable, but maybe as you look back on this year, maybe there are things that don't fit easily, that are sort of scratchy. Maybe you've lost some confidence in God. Suddenly you have questions where a year ago you didn't. Maybe you've lost confidence in the church and become hurt and disillusioned. Maybe you've lost some confidence in yourself. Maybe you've made some poor decisions. Or maybe your body isn't quite as reliable as it used to be. Maybe you've lost confidence in the future. You had a sense of a plan mapped out and suddenly that plan is no longer as clear. It's a passage in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. I said last week Ecclesiastes is the book written especially for those in the middle age. Ecclesiastes 3, it's a passage that's often read out during funerals. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What this tells us is that there are different seasons in our life, and one of those seasons can be a season of grief, maybe like identified as like a winter season. But there are different seasons. There's seasons of tearing, painful seasons, as well as seasons of dancing, of embracing, of laughter. As Christians, we have a very bad habit of spiritualizing our emotions, particularly the ones that are harder. We say things like God's got a plan for everything. Everything's going to work out for good. Out of fire comes gold. Rejoice in the Lord always. And there's a truth, obviously, to these scriptures. But typically, often we use them to try and anaesthetize ourselves from pain. So I just want to make 3 very simple observations about seasons. And the first is that seasons can't be hurried. They can't be hurried. Most of us would like summer. Most of us like summer more than winter. But no matter what you do, you cannot make the season go faster. Winter takes its course. Now, farmers understand this. They might like a short winter, but actually they moan about the weather a lot, farmers, because it's never quite right. Never fits. But, you know, the season has to take its course. And whatever the farmer does, nothing will change the season. But we're desperately adverse to winter seasons in our life. We're so used to instant answers and pills that will make things go away that we want summer all year round. We even devise theologies that say we should be living always in seasons of blessing and health. But seasons can't be hurried. We can deny, it's not winter, I'm not cold, it's sunny outside. No, I'm not worried about that. I'm over that, she'll be right. But no matter how much you deny it, it's still winter. We can minimise things. It's not that bad today, it's only -5 outside. There's a little bit of sunshine, I'm sure. I'm a bit down, but hey, it's not that bad. We can blame others. I told you shouldn't have hung out the washing today. It's your fault, I feel like this. If you hadn't done that, I'd be fine. We can blame ourselves. Oh, I'm worthless. I'm not important. We can intellectualise. Well, this season's not quite as bad as last season. You know, in Alaska, they have winter 10 months of the year. I don't know if they do, actually. We intellectualise to avoid acknowledging the season we're in. Or we can deflect and make jokes about winter. We can use humour as a cover. But the pain doesn't go away with humour. Or alcohol or drugs or whatever we can use to deflect. We can get angry and say, how dare you say it's winter? It's not winter. Or as I said, we can try and spiritualise away the season. But the season we're in cannot be rushed. It can't be hurried through. You can't think, well, I'll drive faster, in my car, I'll drive faster and I'll get through that patch. It doesn't work like that. The season we're in is the season we're in. And it will go at its own pace. And that pace will be different for the person next to us. And we have to accept the season we're in and acknowledge it. In fact, failure to acknowledge the season we're in often actually seems to prolong it. And the second thing about seasons is that they do come to an end. We know this in real life. No season lasts forever. At times it seems like winter drags on and on. But eventually the season gives way to spring, to new life, to hope again. And if we're in a season of grief now, or a season of tearing or of searching, it will come to an end. It won't end by us pretending it's over. It will not end because people say it's 2 years, you should be over that by now. For some, the season of grief is long, and for some it's short. Just like it's the summer season now, the winter can still be cold. We can have hot days and cold days. So it is with grief. New hope springs forth, but just when we think that winter is gone, it comes back to bite us. But eventually, there are more warm days than cold days. And the new summer might feel different from the previous summers, because the winter we've been through actually has shaped us and changed us forever. We don't come out of the winter season the same person. Inevitably, we'll have been changed. And because it's changed us, we experience the summer in a new way. The new season of laughter, of joy, of healing will be different from what we've experienced in the past. But the new season will come. Writer to the Hebrews was writing to a people who were suffering, and he reminds them of an earlier winter season, of when they were thrown in jail, about when they had their belongings confiscated, when they were beaten and ridiculed for their faith. And he reminds them to remain faithful because they knew a better season was coming. And so we read these words, so don't throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember the great reward it brings you. Patient endurance is what you need now, so you'll continue to do God's will. The third thing I'd say about seasons is that every season has its beauty. I'm changing metaphors a little bit here, but I remember when I went first to Roz's hometown of Mildura for the first time, and Rosa told me that her hometown was set on the banks of the mighty Murray River. When I got there, all I could see was this brown muddy thing that didn't look very appealing at all, and surrounding Mildura is basically desert with these funny sort of scrubby things. I know I was used to New Zealand rivers that were blue and bush that was green, but because I was wise and in love, I kept my opinions to myself. But once you spend time in Australia, you sort of start to see the beauty in the outback. It your perception changes. There's an artist called Pro Hart, and there's one of his paintings here. He was an early Australian artist who sort of became the father of outback painting in Australia, outback art in Australia. And his art actually helped Australians see the sort of incredible spiritual beauty of the outback. They say that Antarctica has an incredible beauty. Now, to me, it just looks white and cold, but seemingly, if you stay in Antarctica long enough, there's a picture there of Antarctica, seemingly, you start to see a beauty in Antarctica. There is a beauty in the winter season. My uncle used to tell of when he was a young adult that he used to go to the back beaches of Amaui when there was, in the winter, when there was a king tide, or king tide. And they'd sit up high overlooking the beach and watch the storm come in, throwing huge big logs well above the normal tide line, throwing these huge logs like matchsticks. There was an incredible beauty in the middle of the storm. There's a beauty in the winter seasons of our life. Sometimes that's hard to see. Sometimes we can't see it till the winter is past. But many people can testify that the tougher seasons of their life have been the seasons of most profound growth. That if we can move beyond the mechanisms of denial and deflecting and minimalising and spiritualising and cry out to God in those seasons in raw honesty, we often can profoundly encounter God, even more so than in the joy of summer, in the delight of summer. Because I think in the depths of winter, we come to God without any sense of entitlement, without any sense of being in control, without any pride. And it seems that beatitude comes true. Blessed are those who are poor and realise their need for Him, for the kingdom of God is theirs. In our poverty, God meets us in new ways. What is the season you're in at the moment? What is the season you're in? Is it a winter season of grief and anger and loss and despair? Is it a summer season of warmth and delight? Or maybe of intense dryness, desperately in need of refreshing springs of water? Is it a springtime where something new is being birthed? It's exciting and it's scary, but there's little shoots poking up. You're not quite sure what it'll look like. But something new is happening. Or is it an autumn season, a season of harvest, of growing, of maturing? Autumn is also a season of letting go, of allowing change to happen. What season do you identify with at the moment? I've asked two couples to come and share. I'm not sure who's going to be doing the sharing, but I've asked Marion and Stuart Elder and Marion and Doug McDonald to come and just reflect on something of the winter season that they have walked and are walking through. So, do you want to?
Hi everyone. At the end of 2020, we retired together. We always planned on retiring together because for us retirement was more about a beginning than an ending. We had plans and we knew that retirement years were going to be fun. We intended to get new bikes and go and do some of the tracks around Otago and Southland. We wanted to go and see parts of New Zealand we'd never seen before, and we hoped that in due course we might be able to go and see family living overseas. So it was a bit of a shock to know that our plans weren't going to happen, or certainly not in the time frame that we anticipated. I was given an unwelcome cancer diagnosis, which meant immediate treatment and all the challenges associated with that. But I also felt a really strong sense of loss and disappointment because this is not the way it was meant to be, not how we wanted it to be or had planned for it to be. For me, that sense of loss was the strongest when I was on my own, or especially if I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt like I'd actually lost control that I thought I should have.
We always have done lots of things together. That's just how we are. So as well as missing out on our immediate dreams, for me there was also an awareness of possible future loss. I just couldn't imagine doing things on my own. I knew there were lots of people praying for us, and I knew that God has things under control, but there's certainly moments when I struggled, and sometimes still struggle, to come to terms with what has happened.
As Stuart said, we were very aware of lots of people praying for us, and also we had lots and lots of help and care, including from many of you. We were also thrilled that our adult children could all get back to New Zealand, even though it was the middle of COVID and they had to deal with things like MIQ. We just had so much love and care from them, and we also watched them supporting each other, which as parents is a very cool thing to do. Anyway, rolling on to now, I'm in what is called a partial remission, so the future is still pretty uncertain, a bit of a question mark, but we have sort of felt comfortable to start planning again. We're sort of rejuvenating our dreams, but the big difference is that now we kind of hold on to our plans more lightly and know that God has his plan is the plan. The other difference is that we are determined not to miss out on all the little things that are positive and happen right in front of our eyes every day. I'm sure that we have taken things for granted in the past, and now we're just kind of noticing and valuing the blessings that come our way just so often. So yeah, that's us.
Thank you so much just for sharing something of your journey of this winter season. Doug and Marion, two Marions.
I've realised a few things in contemplating this last week, and one of them is I often have said in an exclamation of good grief. That is the biggest oxymoron around, isn't it? Anyway, last year was a full year of grief and loss for us. We were involved in a church for 34 years and deeply, very greatly involved over time, worked up. And over that time there had been issues, as there always are when you've got people, but we've always worked through them because the core values and the beliefs have all been united in that there and been able to work through the problems. And that changed about 2 years ago, and just over a quick period of time, everything that was built up became eroded and cancelled out by I don't want to go into too much of it, but just the difference in beliefs and people's ministries, things that we'd built up, believing that everybody has gifts, and so you're encouraged when you're in leadership, it's all about other people. It's not a platform for getting your own personal views and opinions out. And if you don't have a love for people, then ministries, everything gets eroded. So this happened over a time, it was a real battlefield. It wasn't sudden oncoming or anything. It got to the stage where Doug had left, but I was still there and going through this turmoil of, do I stay, do I get out? And one of the things that kept coming to mind to help make that decision was the Bible reading that from our wedding. We weren't Christians when we were married. We had 2 Bible readings. One was from John, and that's all I can tell you about that. I don't remember anything else, what it was from, where it was. And the other one was from Ruth. And I'll probably get the quotation round the wrong way, but it's where Ruth says to Naomi that your God is my God, where you go, I will go. It could be round the other way, and so that was the thing. I didn't agree with the fact that we were both going in different places for worship, and that was one thing that helped cement the decision that, yes, I had to leave. It was a time I felt of great remorse. I felt guilty on leaving the ones back there in the church. It was a whole and complete sadness of knowing and seeing which way the church was going, that disappointment. But I also had a sense of a loss of identity when I left there. Everything that I was related to was suddenly gone. It was an emptiness there. When we came here, we're doing a series on relationships, I think. There was we've done a few series, but it was the last couple of them in this series, and I know one of them was on forgiveness. Isn't that God? Straight to the jugular. There was a time when it was just so, the loss, and it was just so real. There was emptiness, there was confusion, but all through it, there was times of great healing that came through, and especially through the songs, worship, that could just, God's Spirit would just wash over and heal. I felt and I knew that it was an act of will that I had to come. I knew I wanted to come and had to come on Sundays to worship. I hadn't been able to do that. It was a right battle with every other time. You know, there's twice I remember going to service the other way, and that distinctly heard pray the Spirit, pray the armour over, and each time after, at the end, one of the other cohorts, he said, "Did you get those arrows?" And I said, "Yes," but they just were reflected off. It was a battle, right in the midst. Anyway, very distressing. And so coming here, and I knew, as hard as it was, because I'm not an extrovert, that I had to get involved and wanted to get into a small group, a study, and that has been really great, in having the support and the prayers, but also it's so easy to stay at home and have your own little pity party, as it were, to dwell in your own woe is me or that there. So I did get in, and it was slowly, it's been working to get involved in other things, and that has been good. And then we had September. September the 22nd. Thursday. You think you have no more tears, but tears are like mercies, they're new every morning. Smart. He had a phone call to say that Janelle, her daughter, needs you. Get here, safely as you can, she needs you. I didn't know, she wasn't saying what was happening, and it wasn't until I picked up my phone, because it was charging, picked up my phone, and I was on the way out, I read this message from Mason. Granny Vincent's not breathing. Mum's doing CPR and I'm scared. I just knew, I just knew he was gone. There was no need to suddenly pray that help that would come to, and it just knew he was gone. All I could pray was, God help them. So this was with it being sudden, you go into shock. It's disbelief. You like stunned mullets. There is no preparing for that there. What I found very hard was, no matter what age your kids are, you want to take their pain. You would rather be the one going through all this for them. And that's what I found just so hard, is I couldn't. And I really struggled with how could I help them. Ringing the family and telling them the news was the hardest thing ever to do, with these shocks, their reactions, and feeling their pain and confusion. It was a confusing, bewildering time, but underneath it all, and the whole time, we had the peace that does pass all understanding. You can't describe it, how and when the most devastating time of your life, you can still feel and know the peace. I'm in my mid-60s, and yet I have felt and know God's love like a child. I have known over this time, just my head on his shoulders, and it is a journey in coming up and through all this. One of the things that I found hard, because I had a tongue pronunciation right, yeah. Vincent there was 6 days before the funeral, and it was an amazing, lovely time. But I'm always been a person that, when in a situation, I always immediately say, how can I help? What can I do to help? And get in. I'm the ground roots person. And I found this very difficult at this time when the ladies came in and they took over, and they keep telling us, because we couldn't, not to do anything, that no, this is the time that we love you, that you for your mourning, this is we serve you. And I found that very difficult and very hard, because part of my way of doing things is doing as well. But it was only actually this morning, in reflection on this here, that I realised that because what had happened in the previous 2 years of that year, I had built up this wall of actually mistrust through circumstances, and found it very hard to believe and accept anybody's kindness and love. And this was actually, God took down that wall. I can remember standing in the kitchen on that Thursday because I had gone in and got supplies for knowing that there would be extra needed there, and the ladies in the afternoon in the kitchen looking in the fridge and seeing what was there and deciding for meals what was happening, and one of them took out the packet of meat, of stew that I was going to take home and make into a casserole. You know. And so I went forward and I said, I'll take that. I was going to take that and make a meal. And we had this back and forth, this bit of meat. And God said, let her do it. And I had little things, barriers were broken down, and I had to then accept love and that. It was about mid-November or so. It was about the 6 or 7 weeks when I had a time when I was really flat. It was just like a zombie. And there was lots of confusing things. I wouldn't say I wasn't suicidal, but there was that longing just to hear and to feel him and longing, and the confusion of, he was only 17. Why did he have to die? Why wasn't it me? And if it was my turn to go and God take me, I was quite happy, yes, quite happy to go. I would just long to hear his voice. Hey, Granny, guess what? And, And the little things, he came in for a hug. Usually when you go to hug somebody, not Vincent. Yeah. And he was 6'5", so he had quite a wingspan. And you come in and you immediately think, do I have to lose weight or what? And he'd, of course, being so tall and me not being so, he'd have his bend down. And it always reminded me of an albatross coming into land, you see. And little things like this that you think, you miss, you long for. But in this time, it was in November, and there was a little incident, and I reacted at home, and it could be said I overreacted. Exploded, and there was the tears and there was the running away. It was full works, and I was in my bedroom and I was actually shocked at my reaction. And then I thought, am I having a breakdown? And then I thought, well, when you're having a breakdown, do you actually know you're having a breakdown? So I decided that no, I wasn't. And this was actually still part of grief. Your emotions are all over the place. I can remember saying to Janelle at one stage there, I'll be pleased when the year of firsts is over. And there's a lot of firsts. And you sort of come and dread them, but I will say that with God's help we've got through, and they haven't been as bad as anticipated. We've had to. Sometimes a memory, an image, a picture or something you can look at or think of and you can smile. Another time, that same image, that same picture, and it can just, the tears can flow, you're all over the place. And that's fine. You can smile and have tears at the same time. It is a bit harder when you smile and laugh. Usually you snort. yes, there are some days are like diamonds and some days are like stone. But everything is saying, agree with. There is beauty in everything, and even into this, in reflecting in this last week on all this, I have learnt and realised why things have happened, and that has helped, because it's a bewildering time, especially with the young one. Why did that have to happen? And a lot of things we do not get answers, but anyway, God is with us always.
I won't be as long. This morning's brought a few things close to the surface. I want to talk about the shortest verse in the Bible, in English anyway. John 11:35, Jesus wept. And the whole, I guess, I've looked at that verse however many times over the space of time, not just recently, but over the years, and it seemed Jesus wept, but he knew what was going to happen. Why did he weep, and that sort of thing. And I've come to grasp something of that through recent times. So when you think about when Jesus comes to Martha, Mary, and what that greeting might be like, and how he saw and felt their grief, their anguish, sense of loss, the reality was thrust on them. And so in my mind's eye, I imagine Jesus coming to them. Doesn't say that he hugged them, but I'm guessing he did. It doesn't really matter, but I'm guessing he did. And I'm guessing that it was a prolonged hug, and it was a tight hug for each one. He felt their grief. I know he felt their grief, because when you're in a situation, a grandson or a family member has passed away, someone you love, and people keep coming, they keep arriving, because they want to be with you in your grief. And when they come, there's periods of time between people arriving. They bring things, and they hug, and the tears start again. And you feel that. And you might not be the one hugging, but you see another person hugging another one. And you feel that sense of grief. You have that empathy in your heart. That's that empathy that Jesus has for us in those times. I gain a lot of strength and comfort in that little short verse. Jesus knows how I feel. And if he can feel it, if he knows how I feel in that moment, then he knows how I feel in every moment.
Thank you to both couples just for sharing something just profound of your heart. We don't talk about winter seasons very much, and so just I appreciate you making yourself vulnerable. Just going to ask the communion team to come to the front, please. Do we have a communion? Yes, we do. Communion team. Again, just ask you to reflect on what kind of season you're in at the moment, and whether you acknowledging that season, or are you trying to deny it, or hurry it along, or are you fighting against the season you're in? Are you saying, why am I in this place? Are you willing to embrace the season of your life that you're in? And maybe discover something of the beauty within it. As we come to communion this morning, we remember that Jesus embraced the cross. As a human, he didn't want the cross, the pain, the agony, the weight of the sins of the world upon him. He did not want that. He wrestled in the Garden of Gethsemane. He literally sweated blood as he wrestled with God. He wanted God to take away that winter season. But in the end, he said, God, I submit to you out of the depths. And out of that depths of that winter season came the joy of new life and the hope. That's the resurrection. His blood brought our freedom. His pain brought our healing. His suffering brought our future. His torture brought our peace. His tears brought our joy. In Isaiah 61, we read these profound words, to all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, festive praise instead of despair. In their righteousness, they'll be like great oaks that the Lord planted for his own glory. These are words spoken to the nation of Israel in profound grief. The temple had been destroyed. Many of the Jews were in captivity. They were mourning. There was ash on their head. And in a sense, this verse says, you are in grief and mourning, but I'm going to bring a new season. And I'm going to place a beautiful crown on your head. And you're going to become like great oak trees. And you're going to become priests in God's house, it says. And God's righteousness is going to spring up, and you're going to rebuild what has been destroyed. And that was fulfilled in Jesus Christ. And he quotes, the beginning of these words, he says, these refer to me. Now, we've been given status as children of God. We've become priests who can access God himself. We are seeing the kingdom of God being restored, and we are rebuilding what the enemy has destroyed, and one day Christ will return and complete the process of fulfillment of this prophecy. As we come forward, and there'll be 2 stations here if the team just want to get ready, the 2 stations. As you come forward and celebrate communion this morning, I invite you, if you want, to bring your piece of sackcloth. Think about what this represents, the uncomfortableness this represents. And I invite you to lay it at the foot of the cross. And in a sense, saying to God, I acknowledge the season I'm in. I acknowledge that you understand it. And I know this season will end because of the work on the cross. As you place your hesi in there, you don't have to do it, but if it's significant for you, you're also remembering that there is a world to come that's beyond anything we can imagine. In the world to come, there is no winter season because the promise is there'll be no pain, there'll be no suffering and no sorrow. Remember whatever season you're in, remember what Jesus has done. He's made you a priest in his kingdom. And that despite the scratchiness, whatever season you're in, you're a child of the Most High. I invite you to come and take communion. And if you want to place a hessian at the cross, you can do that first. And as that happens, there's a song, a beautiful song about God giving us beauty for ashes that comes out of this scripture. So I invite you to do that now.